So, Bryce, EV myth-busting, the dirty dozen. Is there only 12, is there? That's it. 12 myths. That's it, you're right. Only 12 myths, Bryce.
There's a hell of a lot more than 12. I actually listed another dozen, I think, at the end just as headings because I could go on for days.
So what are the big ones?
Well, I thought I'd list 12 of the big ones, so we could start with, I'll skip a bit about me, there's probably not much point. I was going to do some EV myth busting, which is, they're not a new thing.
Yes.
That's a 1906, I think it was Pope electric car.
Wow.
The story, I'd love to know the story of those photos, actually. There's a whole series of them in the Getty, the Corpus Hall of Electrical History.
Yes, I've seen the midwives on electric scooters zooming around as well.
I haven't seen those, but this...
So it looks the same age.
This was taken around 1912, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And there's a whole series of these really shiny car with that woman dolled up to the nines in all these different positions.
Yep.
There's some sort of photographic shoot. She's dressed far better than you would expect for going out on a windy car drive.
Yeah. And chain driven too.
Yep, and tiller steering. It's that old.
Oh yes,
it's
it
a
is
tiller.
too. Yeah. Oh yes, side mounted. Geez, you'd need some skill to drive it too, wouldn't you?
Yep, she looks like she's got the skills. She's got that look in her eyes of, I'm going to take on the world.
Thoroughly modern Millie.
Yep.
What kind of a switch is she throwing there?
That is what's called a knife switch. A good safe switch because it's bare copper metal.
Yep.
And it basically goes from the contacts at the top
Yep.
down to the contact at the bottom, and up the top it's off, and
Yep.
on the bottom it's on.
Well, that would have been one of the myths back in the early days too, about the dangers of electricity in our houses versus flames.
Oh, that goes back to Edison versus Tesla.
Yep.
The 240 volt AC system
Yes.
versus the 110 DC system.
Yeah. And it proved that marketing wins, not logic.
Yeah, so America has, that's the reason for, and one of the later slides is the plug war.
Yep.
The reason America has this weird plug that nobody else in the world will use, although
Yes.
North America,
Yeah.
is that they have a two-phase AC system. We have a three-phase system.
Yeah.
And it's
120
volts.
Is it 120?
Nominally
And
120.
is it a variable voltage as well?
It's 100. We have a 240, 415 three-phase system.
Yep.
And they have a 120 two-phase 240 volt system.
Wow.
So what it does is, if you plug in your electric car, you use your laundry power point, which has a 240 volt outlet in a special outlet, and that's how you charge your car. Otherwise, you plug into 110 amp, 120 volt outlet, and it's slow as a wet week to recharge.
And no three-phase?
No three-phase.
Wow.
They do have some three-phase in industrial areas,
Yes.
but they actually have to sort of set that
Do it
up.
properly,
It's a very special area.
Wow.
It's
What's myth number 2, besides the fact that Americans are unique?
Yeah, we could say more about unique. All EVs are created equal. This one's been created by Toyota recently, saying hybrids are the way to go. Being a bit sneaky because I'll put a lot of 4 cars up. There are actually 4 types of EV, not just one that hybrids that Toyota talk about. So first up, there are 2 plug-in electric vehicles, the BEV and the FEV, the battery electric vehicle, and a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and that's that little dashed line around the 2. They're the ones you charge at home with a power point, and you can drive electric only on them. So you can actually drive them around all day, every day, and never use petrol, even in a FEV, if you keep under the...
Yes, I drove a Lexus in Victoria for hundreds and hundreds of kilometres and never once did the petrol gauge move, not once. Couldn't believe it.
Yep, yeah, so if you just keep plugging it in each time, as if you do your 40, 50 Ks. Problem with the FEVs is at one stage there they were gaming the system like Dieselgate in Europe with VW, but basically saying, plugging it in for a test, and it went, oh, I'm being tested, I'll be good today, and put out fewer emissions, and as soon as you unplug it, it went, I can go back to my bad old ways. Then they got caught.
Yep.
But as a result, the plug-in hybrids are just on the right side of the line of they game the system to come up with much higher numbers for their range, EV-only range. So in Australia, we use still an old testing system, basically called NEDC, which I like to call it not even darn close. And all new BEVs and FEVs, go back. All new BEVs in Europe are rated under a new system called WLTP, Worldwide Light Vehicle Testing Procedure, and that's about 30% less than NEDC.
Wow.
Here in Australia, we still use effectively NEDC. It's ADR 81, Australian Design Rule 81/02, and that's effectively NEDC. All the BEVs now, basically, nobody rates them to NEDC anymore, so all the numbers you see will be WLTP numbers. They're pretty close to real world, but FEVs, they're still giving the old NEDC number. So if you look at the BYD Shark, the plug-in hybrid ute, they say 100k range. You might be lucky if you're going downhill with a tailwind for the EV only, but probably it's 70-ish kilometres. So you take roughly 30% off NEDC to give yourself the WLTP number. There's actually a third system of testing, which is the American system, and because they do longer range, longer distances, higher speeds, they're about a slightly different test cycle, and they'll come up with about a 10% less number to WLTP. So anyway, that's the long-winded version of...
Good as the test that you're running.
You can get about 70 Ks on some cars, but some of them got down as low as 12 because they were giving them really good discounts for being green cars, but they only had a 12-kilometre FEV range. So they changed the rules in Europe for that now. They're getting up.
And are we going to actually see hydrogen cars like that? I saw one yesterday spewing water everywhere on my Facebook feed, and it spoke about hydrogen was the future. And I'm like, is it? Is hydrogen anywhere ever a reality with residential domestic?
It's getting less and less. I'll finish this bit because the plug-in cars, when in Norway, when it brings bans and Europe brings into bans, all the plug-in cars are allowed to still be sold. So FEVs will still be allowed, but they're being sort of discouraged with the legislations, but they'll still be there. So the BEV will be the one that predominates long-term, and the HEVs will actually disappear. They fail. They don't get past the line of the bans. They're counted as petrol car.
Wow.
So hybrids, as in pure hybrid, they won't be around. Wow. So the hybrid, Toyota are conflating hybrid and FEV. So half of them will disappear. They will no longer be available to buy. And the FEV will slowly, I'll go back one. The hydrogen car, you use 3 to 4 times as much electrical energy to create the hydrogen as you do to just charge up a battery and do the same distance. So if you want a green economy and you don't have full green grid, it's a really dumb way to go with hydrogen. There are about 8 refuelling stations for hydrogen in Australia, most of which are not public. Well, how many million power points might we have?
Quite a few.
In which case, I think the hydrogen car's dead. So the hydrogen car is already, various manufacturers giving up on it. I'll talk a little more on that in a later slide even. But that's sort of where it's going. And as I said, the FEVs and other are actually fading away. It will be full BEV. Very equivalent to what happened at the start of last century when it had 3 types of car, steam, petrol and electric, roughly sold in equal numbers. And the petrol car won at the time because could only get electric in the biggest CBDs of the world. So that's basically what hydrogen is now.
They saw the money from the fuel.
So they're not all created equal, even though Toyota tries to pretend they are.
Yes, this fuel cell one that you just mentioned, the solid state fuel cell, the chip you put in the car that drives it for 1,000 kilometres, you've just told us that it's always based on hydrogen or always
that's a 1,000 kilometre battery or 10,000 kilometre battery. But basically you just tip a liquid into it and it's a battery. That's different again to hydrogen.
But so it's not hydrogen based either?
That's not hydrogen based.
So what Toyota going to come out with a fuel cell? What is that fuel cell?
Well, that was one being experimented with by BMW as well. They brought out a hydrogen fuel cell car, for demonstration a couple of months ago, and I was one of the press crew that went down to see it. And it's an electric car, basically, except it ran on hydrogen, but they were desperately not letting us drive it too far because it was a long way back to the nearest hydrogen station.
Yes, I'll bet.
And you can't
fill it up with a 5-litre container or
you can't run down the road with a little jerry can of petrol or even a little generator. It's just not going to happen.
Wow.
There's all those other issues. The technology is not mature. It's very expensive. The reason Toyota has said to love it as a technology is that they require even more maintenance than a petrol or diesel car.
Yes. Yeah. The one I thought was funny the other day was the history of hydrogen bus trials since 1972, and they're all rusting away in a paddock. We just still can't make it work.
Failure to a trial of failure of a trial.
Even with £28 million allocated on Friday in the UK, I'm not sure how much green electricity UK produces except through nuclear.
But they actually produce quite a lot of green power, and
Yeah,
there have been stages recently where the UK's run 100% on green energy. Part of it being imported from Norway, but
Yes. So
yeah.
it is. It's Norwegian plain.
Some of it
electricity.
is, but they've got lots of wind and
Yes,
solar.
they do.
And they've just shut down their very last coal-fired power plant too.
I saw it. Yeah, amazing, eh? How the world has changed. We'll be the last one, of course, kicking and screaming because we're without coal, we're nothing.
Yeah, we've got all this gas and coal and oil to sell, but nobody wants it anymore.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if it.
We'll probably just give it away at throwaway prices.
Well, we've been doing that for so
Oh,
long.
hang on,
Why not?
we're already doing that.
Fantastic. All right, let's go to the next one.
Next one. We've got to wait till all the petrol stations are replaced with DC chargers. Of course. That's what we're used to. We go out of our way and refuel on the way to
It was
somewhere.
like that from minute one with ice cars, wasn't it?
Yeah, we do that all the time.
50,000 petrol stations.
Well, it's a big mental shift, but when you realise your destination's your charging point, and cars sit around 95+% of the time.
Yeah.
So make use of that time. Don't waste your time stopping in the middle of a trip, going out of your way to a petrol station.
Yep.
Instead, where you park at home, shopping centres, whatever, and you just use whatever is appropriate speed charger.
Yeah. Great slide. No wonder you've got these copyrighted. Okay, that's a beauty.
Well, that was actually of Uber's. I did a project with them for.
That slide doesn't have copyright on it.
No, well, that's copyright to Uber's because I did a project with them for the ACT's EV Ready policy advice.
So it's an Aussie one?
Yes,
an Aussie slide.
that's an Aussie slide. That was by Urbis in Canberra.
Yep, perfect.
So we did a big project to give the ACT government the right advice on how much charging you really need in buildings, in domestic, or was it? I'm trying to remember. It was apartments, shops, warehouses, all that type of stuff.
I'll be looking forward to accessing that when I go and talk to my local shopping centre. Sounds very interesting.
Although in New South Wales, they still are thinking in that one-to-one model, and they've said all shopping centres should have a 75 kilowatt DC charger, which is nuts.
Yeah, it is.
Everybody goes there for an hour or more.
Yeah.
Movie 3 hours maybe.
Yeah. Well, the young man was here with the PowerPoint yesterday. Just roll out a conduit, plug in. It's only a top-up. No one goes shopping to buy electricity.
No one. You're not going to go to a shopping centre for 10, 15, 20 minutes for a top-up.
No.
But I think the next slide I've got is, there
you go.
The difference is you suit your charging to the dwell time.
Yep.
So if you're parked overnight, you do 30 kilometres a day, a PowerPoint and a plug-in charger came with the car is all you need. 12 to 16 kilometres charged an hour.
Yep.
If you did 30 kilometres on a 10 amp charger, that would be more than 2 hours would be enough to get that.
Yep.
If you're doing 50, 100 Ks in a day, a 15 amp power point is all you need.
Yep. Is this one copyrighted too, this slide?
It is, if you go through that QR code, it's actually a full article on this. So that QR code will take you to the driven article.
Okay, I will.
And we have one audience member. Oh, hang on, 3.
3. Come on in and we're going through the common myths of EVs. And we're just dispelling them one by one. You can ask any
We
question.
just thought it'd have a bit of a chat. So, that basically is the numbers. And you basically will choose your charging speed accordingly. Yeah. So, I was part of the group that wrote a training course for electricians. And this is basically what I use to teach the electricians for advising the customer.
Yeah. Well, it is important too because everybody has preconceptions and misconceptions, including myself. I've never seen those numbers published against each other, and it's so real and relevant when Aurora's here saying there's a free hour of electricity. I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah, if you've got 3-phase power, you'll get 146, and your car, most cars now will do 11 kilowatts 3-phase.
Yeah.
So you'll get 73 kilometres charged in that hour.
Yeah.
That's probably the average commute in most of the big cities in Australia is 30 kilometres. So that's 2 days commuting replaced.
Yeah, and it was fascinating to hear that the average trip in Norway is 30 kilometres.
Yep, that was fascinating to say. And the average distance per year was about the same as well.
Australia, crazy. Yeah.
So that's the sort of numbers. And if you're on the highway, that's when you use the petrol station analogue.
Yep.
But you get 2.6 minutes for the fastest charges now for 100 Ks.
Yeah, wow.
But again, I keep saying about petrol stations, if 90-odd% of charging is done at your destination on those AC chargers on the left, 90-something plus % of petrol stations better get nervous because their business model's gone.
Yeah, well, they were talking about Norway. You can't give a petrol station away.
Yeah.
And it's a contaminated site.
Yeah.
So change it to an energy station, put lots of charging points in there, allow for people to charge their mobiles. You need the Zoom room.
Yep.
Unless it becomes multi-purpose, it's dead.
But not many of those will happen because there'll be, if it's near an apartment block or in a busy inner city area, perfect. That'll be a perfect changeover because they can make it a hot desking situation. You can plug in and charge, make a meeting.
Well, for those of us who are travelling salespeople, we plan our days around where the nice cafes are that have PowerPoints. And currently they've got golden arches on them, but even new stores are still not allowed for that. And bless the big multinational food chains, they could really set the lead, couldn't they?
Yep. So the big roadhouses, they will love this business because they'll be able to stay for an extra 5 minutes maybe. When you get in those fast charges, I mean, my electric Kona, which I've done Melbourne to Perth and back in, I've done multiple trips to northern New South Wales, western New South Wales in it. I quite like the timing, but it's a 70 kilowatt DC fast charger, so it's quite slow now.
Yep.
The average now is about 150, double what I do. Wow. I find 70 is about the right number for the breaks that I take.
Yeah, wow.
So 150.
We should take breaks.
Yeah, you should take breaks. I actually turn up more relaxed.
Yeah.
If I got the average car now, it's around 150 in the middle of that table. I've basically it's a third of the time. Compared to a 50, or it's half the time I'll be spending. So I might have to rush my coffee and toilet stop.
Yeah, amazing, eh? Yeah, good one.
So that's another. EVs actually take fewer. You work to your charger, and far fewer of them are needed than a petrol station.
I wonder on long distance drives if it's not safer in an EV because you do want to take breaks.
It drives me crazy when people say, but I can't drive Melbourne to Sydney without a break. And I'm going, I don't want to be on the same highway as you if that's the way you drive.
Yeah. Well, we just did Tassie to Brisbane and back, and we welcomed the breaks. Yeah. Like otherwise you're in monotony doing 100 for hours, and that's not healthy for you, I'm sure.
No, it's just dangerous. Another big myth. What do we do for the next one? The plug war. Yes, I won't buy one until all the plugs are sorted. This table actually used to be bigger. There was about 5, but I've simplified it a bit.
Yep.
This was sorted out about 2017 in Australia. So it's 7 years ago that we settled on that pair.
Yep.
For AC charging, it's a 3-phase plug.
Yep.
And 2 big pins down below are added for DC fast charging. So those ones are on the right-hand side of the thing. They have a DC fast charge. And that's what it is. If you have an older Australian vehicle, the 2 cars left now have those 2. So they use the AC plug, that's a Nissan Leaf and the Lexus 300E. They use the old DC Chatamo socket.
Everybody else?
Everybody else is that. The Nissan Ariya will have that. All the other Japanese cars now have that, even though that is the Japanese standard. If you bring in the good car company, they bring in Japanese cars. They use that pair. But it's, for the AC side, just a simple adapter. It's not a hassle. DC side, the Chatomos are disappearing faster than I thought they would. But the Leafs were never built as a long-distance inner-city car anyway. They're a city round-town car. So it really isn't an issue if you don't have DC charging within 2 or 3 years. But that's sort of where it's going. And in America, as I said, they have that peculiar electricity system. They use that plug, and there used to be another system in use by all the other manufacturers. They now jumped on board in the last 12 months with Tesla, and they're all now using a Tesla plug.
Nice.
So that's it for the world. We will not talk about China, because they do have their own plugs.
Yes, they do.
But they're a mirror image of the model, the Type 2 plug for the AC, and they're a scrambled version of the Chatamo plug for the DC. So, but they put the standard plugs on as soon as they ship out of China, so it's not an issue.
They're crazy, eh? Yeah.
But it is weird that they would do the mirror image of the
China.
Yep.
Went to space yesterday again too.
Oh wow, I didn't hear about that one.
Big one. Oh, the music in the background is phenomenal.
Oh,
it's
like, look,
national pride to put up a rocket.
We were that busy with the Kenyani challenge.
Yeah, we didn't notice.
Didn't notice that one.
Mars could have been invaded and we wouldn't have noticed.
So what was the next one? Oh yeah, they won't go the distance. That's me on my way to Perth 2 years ago, before there were DC chargers across the Nullarbor. And it was basically 8 days, 6 days, full days and a half day at each end. So I was probably a day and a half longer than a petrol car. So it wasn't that hard. No. And now it's a lot easier. DC chargers right across. After Adelaide, there was basically no DC chargers. until you got 200 k's over the border into WA. And then there was 3, and then there was none again until you hit Perth.
Wow.
Now they're all away.
Yes, I bet. And big commitment to do it. Are they charging you for the power along the way?
Most of them do now.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing. I've never understood, you don't get free petrol when you pull into a petrol station,
no.
so why should people expect free electricity for charging?
And if you park at Eastlands, there's no guarantee you're shopping. You know, you could be doing anything.
You could be doing anything at all.
Just leave it there and go.
Go for a walk.
Yeah, go for a walk, yeah.
So, yep, they will go the distance.
So no range anxiety at all because you're at Norseman Nuclear. You stop at
You
Southern
can see,
Cross.
this is about a month ago, that map, and there's now the orange dots are DC charges.
Yeah.
They're all the way across now.
Yeah. And all the way up north. We were only talking about it 2 years ago and WA's done
There
it.
was nothing up there. And look, you keep zooming in on that map. This is plugshare.com, and you zoom in on that map, it's just more and more charges bob out as you get it closer and closer. So
look at Victoria.
And look at Tasmania. Most of the charges are within 80 kilometres of each other. It's just, it's a no-brainer now that you have no hassle. There is no range anxiety.
Yeah. And it's funny because the south, people say, there's no charging points. And
where's
no
the petrol
roads
stations
either.
down there?
There's no roads either. All petrol stations, Excellent. Great map.
They're way heavier. That's the latest one is, they weigh so much more than a petrol car. They damage the roads.
Yes, they damage the roads. Forget about the B doubles and the,
So I picked on 4 models that there's direct petrol electric equivalents. The Kona's about 11 to 17%, depending which size battery. Genesis about 15, 13. Volvo about 14. They're not hugely much.
No, they're not double the weight like you believe that
the myth has you believe that they're double or more the weight.
Yeah.
It's 10 to 15%.
Yeah.
And the batteries are getting more efficient and lighter, so that's only going to improve.
Yep.
So and I also made the points of your vehicle choice is a lot bigger influence on how heavy the car is. If you want to buy a F-150, a Ram truck, of course it's going to weigh 2-3 tons. If you buy a small efficient vehicle, small electric cars are now down 1.3-ish ton.
Yeah, good point. And good myth to knock out too, because people, when we talk about road taxes versus fuel taxes, at some stage we're all going to snap back to reality. If only the government would spend the road tax money on the roads.
And the other thing is, when it comes to the road tax, if you have a big, large, inefficient battery electric vehicle and you only do it per kilometres, if you have a little lightweight, super efficient electric vehicle, you're paying the same road tax, which at the moment you don't, because if you have a little lightweight car, you pay much less in petrol costs. Whatever comes in must be weight-based or efficiency-based to be fair. Otherwise, it's catastrophically unfair.
And that's why we're doing the Kanani Challenge too, isn't it? It's to say, where's the reality here? Yeah, lovely. Even people towing caravans up there. How amazing.
Oh, that's been fun. It's been fun to watch. I've been involved with that right from the
we have to be careful that we don't hold you up for too long, because I've thrown my phone
I don't know, it's all, I'm free for that one now, but it's good to be catching up with it. But, we better keep an eye on the time.
Good.
They catch fire a lot, don't they?
Yeah, mate, they just spontaneously combust.
They're just a danger. The facts are, this was done about a year ago by the US insurance company. If you don't want a car that catches fire, don't buy a hybrid. About 3,500 hybrids out of every 100,000 new car sales catch a light. About 1,500 petrol cars and 25 electric.
Yeah, that's a beautiful stat.
And Nissan, actually that's just changed in the last month or so. They had their first battery fire.
In 600,000 cars.
In what's now 14 years.
Wow. Go the Japanese.
So if you want to get the facts on fires, go to EV Fire Safe.
Yeah, I thought the people at Canberra ACT Fire and Safety were good that day, because the other fire brigade people are still posting online about, they're so dangerous. And I send them all straight to ACT Fire. It's like they worked it out 7 years ago. And the guy from Norway, remember the guy from Norway said, don't make problems that don't exist.
It just does not, it is not a problem.
Well, obviously Nissans don't.
And the other thing is, the amount of energy in an electric battery, fully charged electric battery, is about the same as a full petrol tank. It's not catastrophically more.
No.
Petrol burns about 870, 890 degrees. Battery fire is about 1,200. It's a little bit hotter. It's just a different way of dealing with a fire. When horse and carriage was replaced by the petrol car.
Yeah.
Fire authorities are used to putting out barn fires and rescuing horses.
Yes.
Petrol would be a shock horror.
Yeah.
Now that's just a common thing. It's just getting used to slightly hotter fire, slightly different ways of dealing with it.
The facts are so important, aren't they?
What's another one? But don't e-scooters and things. This is where all these battery fires are coming from, and vapes in particular in the bins.
Vapes are catching fire.
Yes.
Are they battery powered?
They're battery powered.
You excuse anyone who's in the room today who hasn't got a vaping.
Yeah. Don't throw away a vape in the bin.
Yeah.
That's where all these battery rubbish truck fires coming. Yeah. So EVs very, very, very rarely catch fire, but e-bikes can and do, especially if they're bought off Ali, as I call it, Alibad.
Yep.
It's a bad thing to do, buy things electrical off Alibaba. Please do not do it, and if you bring in stuff that's imported from overseas, you take on the responsibility and the liability for electrical failures, and your insurance doesn't cover you.
Yep. I was going to say, you might think you're okay, but the insurance company won't.
So always buy a known brand with Australian compliance marks from an Australian supplier. Always use the charger it came with. Just because the plug looks the same is not necessarily the same charging curve.
Yes.
As I said, just because it fits doesn't mean it's compatible.
Yep.
And it's just good practice to put. We charge our cars on concrete.
Yeah.
That's just normal.
Yep.
But don't sit it on a wooden floor and charge the battery that way. And always disconnect those things. They're not as well set up as a car.
Yeah. Good.
Another one. If you've got no off-street parking, you can't charge.
Yeah.
That's that little unit there, and that's being trialled in Port Phillip in Victoria and Melbourne.
Yeah.
Basically a little lock, and it's a lead from a charger inside your fence.
Yeah.
And it's only live when the car's charging. As soon as the car's plugged in, it livens up.
Yep.
And when it's finished, it turns off, so that lead is not live all the time.
Yeah, good idea.
Well, that's the way car chargers work.
I just wonder at what stage when every street lamp and every council parking meter will be, charge post. There you go. You've already invented it, Bryce. Well done.
Yep. They're going in, they're on a big trial in New South Wales. There's 20 of those charge posts in particular going in, and there's several hundred others. It's part of a trial.
Is that on a parking meter there, Bryce?
Not that I know of.
What's it on, a bollard or something?
It's on a lamppost of some sort.
Wow.
They're
Because that
just
doesn't look
postman.
like Port Phillip, that looks like England.
That's not Port Phillip.
Even the number
first
plate.
one's Port Phillip.
That number plate's English.
That one's English.
Yeah.
But they're actually going in at the moment in Sydney.
Typical that the Poms would have something soft and gentle, and ours is postmodern industrial steampunk. Yeah.
But that one's for your own private use,
Yeah.
and the green one is public use.
Yep.
That's the difference.
Oh, you'd rent it out to your neighbours if you had one in, wouldn't you?
When you sign the paperwork from the council, you're not allowed to, but I'm quite sure it'll happen. And if you live in an apartment, you've got no hope. You know, the key with that is load management. You can buy chargers, and they're here today, that will actually load manage and share the power. So if everybody plugs in at the same time, not everybody needs a full charge or much of a charge.
Yep.
So the chargers will talk to each other and say, well, I'm not plugged in, I don't need anything.
Yep.
Another one says, I only need an hour or two.
Yep.
You'll get, when we did the ACT policy advice, we worked out if everybody gets a minimum, if everybody plug at the same time, of at least 60 kilometres, how was it? It was about 12 kilowatt hours.
Yep.
So it's about a fifth of a battery charge, if that's worst case scenario. But best normal case scenario is anyone's plugged in will get fully charged.
Yep. Oh,
And there's just load management system that will do it.
That is a beauty knockout. Because you'd imagine that every single person that currently has an EV is charging with solar and batteries just about, wouldn't they?
Yep.
Is it still above 80% in Australia?
Yep.
Yeah. So we still think, and of course your employer will soon be doing it as a perk for you and to build loyalty with the staff.
Become an employer of choice.
Yep. Novated
And there's also,
leases.
there will be rebates available for workplace charging soon. I'll come to that one.
Excellent. Good. That's a myth too, isn't it?
Another myth, they'll bring down the grid.
Yeah.
If you went for a free-for-all, yes, you will exceed the capacity of the grid. But an EV, and I think I've got it on the next slide, the facts are they don't add enormous amounts to the grid. Even if we did sort of a little bit out of control, they only add 10% more electricity overall anyway.
Yep.
Many supply authorities already said, go for it. We're fine. England's power supply said, you can go 100% tomorrow. We will deal with it.
Yep.
But the key issue is that demand management.
Yep.
So at the moment it's pricing. If you put 56 cents a kilowatt hour between 3 and 9 in the afternoon on a hot summer's day and 8 cents a kilowatt hour between 11 at night and 6 in the morning, when are people going to charge? 10 times the price or 6 or 10th the price?
Yeah, I think I'd go to the 10th.
Yeah.
So at night then?
Yeah.
Ooh.
There is actually
Has anyone ever heard that, oh yeah, we use too much electricity? When you go to Sydney and Melbourne, have a look at how many lights are on in the buildings when you know no one's there. I can't believe how much electricity we waste.
Yeah, you drive through the city at 11 o'clock at night, there's so many office lights still on.
Yeah.
And I don't think that many people are dedicated to their jobs.
No. If we're in Japan, they might be workers. And even the cleaners don't do it. And do you know why they're not on timer switches in those big buildings? OH&S. If one of those things fails and the cleaner breaks their leg,
that's mad.
It is mad, absolutely mad. We have a hospital in Launceston that has a 5-storey car park. Nobody ever parks above the first floor and all of the lights are on. It's just like, they need a bigger electricity bill. And of course, it's us paying for it. The taxpayers are paying for that and it's just wasted electricity. Anyway.
That's all of the demand management stuff that people should be doing and we're saving energy.
Yeah, and obviously...
And the Aurora guy was talking about
whoever's running the power bill at the hospital either doesn't drive past it at night or doesn't know or doesn't care.
Yeah.
Whereas I, as a citizen, think, well, that power could be going to Bell Bay and subsidising more employment.
Yep. So I think the key point is, if you've got 3 to 4 times as much electricity needed, you will damage the grid.
Yep.
But it's a discretionary load. You can charge when you want to. Air conditioning, you want it on between 3 and 6.
Yep.
Car doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And when it comes to cars charging, the best time to charge, this is what's called a duck curve, because it's got a tail like a duck and the belly of a duck and the head of a duck.
Yep.
And this is basically the electricity demand in California from 2012 to 2020. And the thing is, there's more and more renewables coming, especially solar. There's actually less and less demand. And the poor old coal-fired power stations had to start ramping down.
Yes.
So plugging a car in during the day, and this is where subsidies are coming for workplace charging, to soak up the belly of the duck.
Yeah.
And that's the point. EVs will benefit the grid, not bring it down.
Yeah, beautiful.
I mentioned the fuel cell.
Yeah,
I'll flick through that one. It really is.
Just hold it there for the public. You understand fuel cells?
The hydrogen car basically use a chemical reaction to turn hydrogen with oxygen to create water and electricity.
In the same car?
In the car.
In the car while you're driving around?
So you fill it up, it's basically a chemical reaction, then it drives an electric motor. Wow. So it has a small battery, because if you do the regenerative braking to get power back as you slow down, like I did at the Kenyani Challenge today, you need a battery because you can't regenerate hydrogen.
Yep.
But the key point is, as I said before, there's negligible places you could refuel them. It's like electricity back at the turn of the last century. There was only the biggest cities of the world had electricity supplies. That was why the electric car didn't win then.
Yep.
The technology wasn't there. Same now, we just have nowhere to refuel them. And most of the car companies are giving up. Even Scania and MAN have given up on developing electric trucks. So even the trucks are going. Tesla can do 500 miles, 800 kilometres on a single charge with their 37, 40-tonne semi-trailer. There was a Chinese, dare I say, knockoff of the Tesla truck on show. Yep, windrows. I looked at it and went, how do they leave the Tesla badge off and stick theirs on? It looks identical.
Yes.
It does dimensionally. It is changing. It does there 2 years, the right dimensions for Australian roads. But it'll do 1,000 or more Ks on a charge.
Yeah, that's an impressive thing that Tesla did with that semi-trailer. That is.
Yeah.
And the video of its launch and its capacity accelerating uphill. Yeah,
it's just electric trucks already are available. The Mercedes, Daimler, various. I've driven the Scania 37. It was a 12-tonne cab chassis. They're available there. The E-Actros, Mercedes E-Actros 600 will have a 500-kilometre range. And there's available. It's a prototype and it's going to be for sale start of next year.
When we first started doing these conferences, there were no electric trucks.
No.
And now one of our colleagues is running the refrigerated truck division.
Fantastic.
With Nathan.
Yep.
Yeah, amazing. So in a 7-year period, it's advanced so far.
It's come a long way. The trucks are where cars were about 7 years ago. Actually 5 years ago.
And what was the percentage yesterday of the Australian trucking fleet produces 20% or 8% of the CO2?
Of transport CO2,
yeah, amazing. Big number. Good slide too, mate. Well done.
So they're disappearing, and never sold in great numbers. And I think it was Toyota dumped all their hydrogen cars in California, and they couldn't give them away.
Yep.
What's another one? Oh, EVs are more polluting than internal combustion engine cars. Well, this is done to the standard carbon accounting methodology that all businesses are supposed to use. I've been doing this analysis since 2012, every 5 years, and it's interesting to see how much better it gets each time.
Yes.
But the grey bar in the end is basically a, what did I say, 2021 Corolla versus a Kona, so similar sized cars. So for 10,000 kilometres, put out 1.5 tonnes of CO2 equivalent. In Tasmania, down here, you'll get less than quarter of a tonne. So it's all hydro, it's all renewable energy.
Mostly. But
Mostly.
It's nice to see Tasmania leading, because we do have that inherent clean, green tourism message that we want to be true, and that backs it up in a big way.
You import a bit of our brown stuff from Victoria, but...
Let's not go there.
We
don't
won't
have to talk about that. We're amongst friends.
Yeah.
We don't import any coal.
But even in Victoria, running on brown coal, it's still 1.41 versus
1.5.
1.5. It's just getting better and better.
Yeah.
So, and for the life cycle, which is the next slide, that's just running them. The full life cycle, at the 6 to 16 months in Europe, will repay the manufacturing plants at the moment. In America, sorry, it's the other way around. America is 6 to 16 months, and Europe's about 2 years because they do slightly lower distances. But it's getting better all the time because the manufacturers are actually moving to full green energy, so they're coming out with no carbon debt as it leaves the factory gate.
Polestar will be like that as soon as possible.
Very soon. So you can see that's basically the trajectory.
Wicked. Fantastic.
They're made with polluting minerals, and they do dreadful things to children.
Like coal.
It's not. As I keep saying, it's not an even. We dig up stuff and build stuff. It's a Western culture thing. Culprits mainly cited is cobalt. Manufacturers are working really hard to either source ethical cobalt through a blockchain supply. I think Volvo are doing that. Tesla are phasing it out. Some of the other manufacturers just phasing out of batteries altogether.
Most batteries now, is there?
Yeah, some of the batteries have got no cobalt in them at all.
And it's also artisanal, right? So if the Congolese family wasn't mining cobalt, they would be doing something else.
It's the nature of the...
It pays more for them to do it, and they do it with the kids. Now, we want the kids to all go to school, but there are no schools.
It's the nature of that industrial economy in the Congo. It's just, they're going to be doing very bad things with child labour or whatever else.
And they have been
cobalt, diamonds, whatever.
200 years, they've been pillaged.
And it's less than 10% of battery anyway. And there's lots more. That's why you're saying I had the dirty dozen there, but they cost more to replace. No, they don't. My Kona battery was, when I first bought it in 2019, about $30,000 worth. It was replaced under a warranty replacement when they had some problems with some of the early manufacturing processes. And the dealer said, this battery's really expensive. And I said, how much? 15 grand. In 3.5 years, when it was replaced, it had halved in price. And it's still going down. That's the other one. The battery range is really only 60% of their actual capacity. It's like a petrol car. You don't fill your car up and leave it at the petrol sitting for 6 months. It's definitely not a diesel, but it's a summer or winter formulation. And the same as you don't run your car down below about 20-25% the last quarter because you suck your dirt or water out of the bottom of the tank. You live between 20 and 80 most of the time. If you're driving Melbourne to Perth or Hobart to Brisbane, that's when you fill it up to 100. And you'll get down to 2 or 3%. It doesn't matter. It's just don't do it all the time. And I have quite a long article. They can't be recycled. They can be 96% recycled.
More dramatic on the recycling. When they were talking yesterday that the Chinese are recycling 95% of their lithium batteries, and each battery, when it's recycled, goes in 2 batteries because the technology is so much more efficient now.
Precisely.
We better be careful because young Warwick's just left, hasn't he? Yes, time, please.
We better finish up. I'll quickly finish up, etc., etc., etc. We're just about there. To avoid the bull BS, check your sources. X may not be a good place to get this sort of information, and just verify that data. There's a whole lot more stuff on that QR code. You want some information? All of that data is available on the AEVA fact sheets, which has all the
Lovely.
summary page for every car. There's a double-sided sheet for it.
Yep.
They change to a second-hand model when that happens. QR code
And
there.
these are not sales-based documents. They're critical assessments done by yourself of the car.
Yes.
Yeah, purely the numbers, who, what, when, where.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
lovely.
it's all sourced from the manufacturers and whatever else. Data.
So we are actually talking to Australia's leading expert right here, right now. So
They started off as my cheat sheets about 7 years
yes,
ago.
when we kicked Bryce off the stage, by all means, he's down with the AEVA people. He really is the smartest man in the room, and I'm honoured to have you on the stage.
Oh,
I
thank you
know
very
you're
much.
too humble. They wouldn't let me put it in my speech the other day. Thank you,
Yeah,
Bryce.
I'll just briefly just say, you want
What have you got
something?
in my
The Driven,
websites? Yep, the Driven.
EV Council, and the questions I think you've asked me along the way.
Any burning questions?
The old, the very, very
The
dirty
other one's
power station.
Renew Economy.
Yes, I write for Renew Economy and
I
the
know you
Driven.
do,
Yep.
but that's like my trusted source now.
Yes.
If I want to know facts,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
only take my feed from Renew Economy.
Yeah,
And
very
it's like
good.
It's every day.
Yeah,
There's
good
something
fact-based
there.
journalism.
Yeah. Fantastic, Bryce. Thank
No
you.
worries. Sorry we
Big
ran out of
hand.
time then.
No, it's all right. It was well worth.
Thank you.
Thanks.